of a coach. And then we're going to look at addressing the big elephant in the room, which is unconscious bias, and promoting equity. And then we look at action planning and our takeaways. Thank you, Chichi and Anne. Chichi, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
As in, are you in the States?
Oh, yeah. I've come back now. I came
Oh,
back
okay.
yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
I'm glad
Hi,
you're here
Dr.
too.
Anne. Yeah.
Good evening, Coach.
Good evening, Ma.
We're here for you.
So I always like to talk about this young lady, and I met this young lady, I think it was in 2021 at the peak of COVID. And so I was actually traveling to Dallas, and so I flew out of Charlotte here. And I always, because I missed a flight one time going to Houston, and I was going for a wedding, and for some reason we missed that flight, and so when we missed the flight, I asked them about our luggage. They said, "Oh, your luggage has already been taken to Houston." So they put us in another flight like 2 hours later, and they said, "Your luggage will be in Houston when you get there." So I got to Houston, and my luggage was not there. We waited, and my luggage was missing. And everything we had, the only clothes with me was what I was wearing, because we just packed everything in there. So that was my very first time of having bag lost luggage. So I couldn't even attend the wedding because the wedding was supposed to be 9 o'clock. Most stores open at 9 o'clock. So you're not even going to be able to buy something and then go. So it was just, it was a waste journey. And then the wedding itself was supposed to be a traditional wedding. So I couldn't even go a Nigerian wedding. I couldn't even do anything. So I just sat in the hotel. So after that period, I go to the airport 3-4 hours. I don't care. So I went that day and I stopped. And you know, that period of COVID, there's always that 6 feet lining. And so sometimes you see restaurants with lines almost wrapping around. So for some reason, there were few restaurants that didn't even have much people. I decided to choose this one that had a whole lot of wait time. Finally, I got seated, and I got seated right opposite this young girl. And we were three on that table. She was directly opposite me. And on my left, her right, was this other lady on her laptop, very busy, didn't even raise her head up and was busy. But I was noticing the young girl because I hear her sniff a little bit, and her eyes were really almost red, and she was hiding, masking a smile. And so, but she was not giving me any cue, like raising her head, no eye contact, nothing. So one time, when the server came to me and asked me what I wanted to drink, and I said water, and she went to her to ask her if she needed anything. So she raised her eyes up, and I could see that they were all misty. She must have been crying. So when the waiter left, I decided to ask her, "Are you okay?" First, she did like she didn't hear me. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm talking to you. Are you all right?" Then she said, "I will be all right." And that was a cue to say that something wasn't really, but she wasn't really ready to open up. So I said, is there anything I can help, or what's going on? Are you going to be okay? So while she was hiding that, she raised her head up a little bit, and then that tears just kept flowing there. So I got close to her seat and I said, are you okay? So at this point, the lady on our left had not noticed something was going on, especially when I got across to her. And I asked her if I could give her a hug. And at that point, she broke down seriously. So now everybody's looking at me like, what did this black dude do to this young girl that's making her cry? So this one here is asking, what did you do to her? so at that point, she's like,
hugging stranger.
huh?
You're hugging stranger at the airport.
Yeah. So she's like, he didn't do anything. So at this point, she also now, so that was when she now, finally, she got herself back. She sat down and I said, what's going on? Then she now told me that this is her first time leaving home, and she lost her dad to COVID about a few months ago, and her younger brother to cancer within 3 weeks. And she doesn't know how her mom will cope since she's the only one at home. At this point, that broke me as well. What's going on? Did I not share?
No, we're sharing.
Huh?
We're sharing. We only wanted to see your face better.
Okay. So at that point, she now told me that she's going to school, and said that and I said, what are you going to school to study? She now said she's studying science so that she can find the cure to cancer, and that really made day. So I didn't even know when I said I paid for a meal, even though she ate almost double of what I ate. So, but it was worth spending. So what was I coming about here? It's just that cue. We're all Scrum Masters here. We listen to cues, we watch the room. Just like everybody here is a Nigerian, there's a saying that when you have a new chicken and you put them across the old ones, they stand with one leg just to assess the environment. And that is how most of us are or should be. We should be master cue readers. We should be able to get into a room and sense the temperature of what's going on, especially when you're in a team. There's a guy that's always very talkative, and suddenly one day he's not speaking for a whole week. And there are people who just talk to be heard, but there are people who give that vibe. And so when that person, it's suddenly quiet for the first day, second day, you should be asking if they're okay. You're not asking to be nosy. You're just asking if everything is okay. You're in a meeting, I listen sometimes and you hear a baby cry, and every time the guy on the mic, you hear a baby cry. One day you should just, out of curiosity, just say, is that the baby? Okay, is that male or female? You're not being nosy, you're just creating that awareness that I'm hearing you and I see what's going on. So that's that little story here. Let me know if I'm not sharing, okay? So like I said earlier, we're going to first look at, can you all still see my screen?
No, your screen is not showing anymore.
That's what I thought, Divine. I thought that.
Yeah, your screen is up now.
Okay. And you're seeing what are you saying?
Global Rise of Cultural Diversity in Coaching.
Okay. For some reason, it's not showing up here to me like I'm sharing. I don't know what's going on. Okay. So if we look at the global rise of cultural diversity in coaching, we find out that coaching has become a global business. There are so many technology like what we're using today, like Zoom. There's diverse perspective. 10 years ago, you can not have a meeting of 200 people or over 2,000 people, 200 people in 10, 15 different countries. You deal with teams now that you have people in Mexico, people in Europe, and people in Africa, all in the same meeting at the same time, real time, and we can share ideas, pass things. So business, it has led teams and made coaching easier sometimes, and also made it possible for us to navigate those cultural nuances. Some of those cultural nuances that we don't even know about. It's like, you hear that some cultures are recessive, some cultures are this and that. You learn a lot when you're within those teams. If you're from Africa and somebody is just joining you for the first time, and you see the way we as Africans give respect or do not give respect, or how the Indians, how they react to each other, and how we thought that they all know each other, or people think we all know each other, and you see two people from the same country, which is like our country, and they start asking, oh, where are you from? what part of Nigeria, what part of this are you from? So those cultural nuances were not there 10, 20 years ago. Also, technology had made virtual coaching very easy. Like I said earlier, Zoom and other teams and other things that are easy for people now to reach across from everybody and across the country. And then the increasing awareness of coaching has made it for people to be able to give those different perspectives that are needed in coaching. So it has made a lot difference. And so cultural diversity has helped coaching a lot. It had helped every other aspect of the global technological world that we all belong to, but it had actually made it more easy for people to connect from other places. So in us doing those things too, we also face some challenges and opportunities as well. So you find out that there are language differences, like I said, cultural idioms that make people sometimes to make mistakes and sometimes make other people feel unwanted or feel bad. You know, sometimes we don't even know how hard we're either making people feel bad or actually helping them. And so sometimes you don't want to say everything that you know because you don't know what you will say that would annoy some other person from other culture. But being with those people from other cultures had also taught you things you thought you know. You know, I remember one time I read something that when you raise your tongue this way, yeah, in the state, what does this mean? Can someone tell me what
Perfect.
this means?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Kudos.
Okay. When you are on a road and you do this, what does that mean?
You need a ride?
Beautiful. Yeah. But in some culture, this is actually an abuse. You know, some people, when you see it facing them or throw a shoe at them, it's a bad sense. And if someone, do you remember when George Bush, a shoe was thrown at George Bush? I think he was, I don't know if he was in Iraq or Iran or somewhere. So throwing of a shoe to someone is also very bad in some cultures, but here you could just look over it. So it teaches us a whole lot when we move aside. And also you look at that different values because you expect that when you're dealing with two people from different cultures, you don't expect that they get the same thing from you because everybody has values and what they are looking for in that coaching is different, especially from their cultural standpoint. And then we also think about the big elephant, one of the big elephants in the room, which is unconscious bias, because both coaches and clients, everybody has them. And sometimes we think we don't, but we actually do as well. So moving on. So there are opportunities in cross-cultural coaching. A lot of that opportunity stems from what does the client gain and what does the person coaching gain. There's creativity and innovation, you know, because it has led to more ideas, more approaches. People are using different things. I'm sure those of us here that have done Ask, I know Chichi can attest to it. I think Divine, you also, you and Dr. Annie, you all have finished your Ask, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think you remember land work, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Divine, can you actually a little bit of what land work does? Can anybody
I've told you that
remember?
before, but it's okay. I think the land work is is that when you want to create your own dream or your own, you do it for an alignment kind of thing. Probably you want to create, I know that we close our eyes, we think, okay, you want to create your own land, your own kingdom. What are the things you
Yes,
see? What are the things that requires? What are the things that
absolutely.
But
that accepted and all
yeah.
those things?
Chichi wants to
In
add.
last, what I remember, because I know that that class was it was abstract, a lot of things. But land
Yeah.
work, we went into different lands. So people's perspective, their lives, to experience what they do in their land, what their culture is like in their land, and we respect it.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Chichi. That's the part. Thank you, Divine, as well. But what I took away with landmine is a tool you can also use to coach, or if you have two people that are having issues or having always in your team. And so I had, don't love this. The week after we had that training with landmine, I went again. If you look at Agile Moves with Coach Uncle Bob, he has something on landmine as well. So I read through that, and so I took landmine and I said I'm going to use it to help this team. But just like Chichi and Divine said, landmine automatically just tells you that in your own land, there are landmines and there are also delicate flowers. In mine, there are also landmines and delicate flowers. So when you're coming to my land, you should be aware, not trampling on my delicate flowers and not making me so mad that I could let loose of the mines that are there. And so we can now leave both our minds and create an euphoria, a mind that is for both of us so that we can cohabit. So, but when I wanted to go do this thing, I didn't think about the landmines. I didn't think about the delicate flowers. I just thought I was just going to use this tool with these two people and it will all be good. And it blew up on my face because I did not look at their history. I did not ask those questions that I was supposed to ask before I started using this tool. I never knew that these two people had worked at GM before. And so they have a history of not working together in a good place. They both have what they think about each other. And now they are bringing that toxic culture from where they're coming from into these teams, and they're just messing everything up. But me coming to trying to help without me knowing what their background was or what actually had been the problem, I just thought I could just use this tool and just wipe out everything and make it well. I almost got written up for this issue instead because I opened up cans of worms that, even though at the end of the day, it was good, but at that point, it wasn't the right tool to use. So we could have those opportunities in cross-cultural and we could create and innovate, but at the same time, we also have to look at those nuances that the other person doesn't want, or what we should actually be looking for, not just using any kind of tools just to solve a problem. So there's also that client rapport, which gives you the opportunity to talk to your client the way they want to be spoken to. And there's global reach, which is a huge one, because there's people, I forgot what they are called. It's not coach to reach. Oh God, can you give me that? You could actually apply and be a coach and you get paid by the hour. And I think they are in Europe, but you just coach someone for 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, and that's done. So, and you're here in the States by your own time, and they are there. They are somewhere in Middle East or somewhere in Asia or somewhere in Europe, and you could coach them all the way from here. So it has given us a global reach to be able to talk to anybody, anywhere. So why does cultural competence matter for coaches? I mentioned something about the part of knowing other places, but there's also the ethical imperative, which we must adhere to those, just like ICF will give you that you have to adhere to their ethical standard when you're coaching. You don't come to coaching when you have other bias mind of what you actually wanted to do, or someone coming to you to tell you something very important and you now use it against them. So there's that ethical imperative that you must adhere to all the ethical principles that leads to that part of the coaching. And there's also improved outcomes and competitive advantage, which is really huge because, like I said, you could be here coaching someone in the Middle East. It doesn't mean that there are no qualified coaches over there. And it doesn't mean that people, those of us who work, there are people who live here and their work is in Africa or somewhere in the Middle East or in Europe. It doesn't mean that those companies cannot get someone as good as you are, but it's just that competitive advantage of knowing where you look for something and knowing more or a little bit than the next person that is there, and also having that opportunity or advantage of getting those kind of opportunities. Any questions before I keep rambling? Should I go on?
I think so.
Okay. So let's go into building cultural awareness. So when we say building cultural awareness, what does that, who can tell me what they think it means to build cultural awareness?
Well, probably I would think about respect for people and culture. Like what you mentioned about the thumbs up,
Yeah.
to some it could be like an abuse, or like a caution. To others it could be like a well done. It's just like when I was in Nigeria a few days ago, and I think I was in a hurry to the airport, and I saw the guy by the checkpoints, and the guy was talking to the driver while I was busy on my phone, and the guy was asking me, "How would you come to my checkpoints? The policeman, why would you be at the checkpoint and be on your phone?" And in my head, I'm like, "Are you crazy or something? Like, I'm on the phone, I'm your passenger, I'm not the one driving. What's my business with you?" That would never happen to me in US, but I went with the mindset of an American. I'm like, somebody's crazy somewhere. But when I got to the airport, when I was talking to someone about, when I called one of my friends about it, they, boy, is Nigeria you out? You don't do that. And I was like, okay, you need to be aware of the culture.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, you can't talk to the policeman looking directly at their faces. When they stop you, you have to come down from the car and show all those nonsense. I won't call it nonsense, it's a culture, okay? But here, I talk to the policeman, you need to look directly into their face to show respect and, generally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's also the same way we were raised. I mean, most of us that grew up, I know almost, at least I can say 75% of us, I can't say of everybody. Most of us grew up in an African home, back home. I can remember you, when your mom is talking to you and you look at them in the face, they tell you, "Are you crazy? Am I your mate?" You get what I'm saying? But but here, kids are taught to look straight in the face, because if you don't look at me, it means you're shifty. It means you want to lie.
Yeah.
You understand?
Godwin, I still have that mix with my son too. When I'm talking with Jordan, and maybe I say something and he asks me why. In my head, I'm like, is something wrong somewhere? Obey before complain. Why what? Because I said so. And but they are taught to ask why. We're not taught to ask why. Just obey.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. So let's look at those. Let's explore those diversity, equity, inclusion, and let's look at the whole thing. Who can give me? I know there's a whole lot, especially even in politics. Now, let's leave our politics aside and let's talk about diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. Who can break it down for us a little bit? Any takers? So let's go. Let's look at diversity itself. Diversity says it recognizing the variety of the human experiences and identities within a group of an organization. And equity talks about ensuring everyone has access to the necessary resources and opportunities to succeed. So is equity and equality the same? Can anyone answer that?
Equity and equality, no, they're not the same.
Okay. Can you
Equity,
put more meat to it?
In relation to this context, equity is everyone having the same opportunity. Everyone has the same access to everything, opportunity, necessary resources, and everything. Everyone has that same opportunity. But equality, for me, I feel equality has to do with maybe the way they've termed it here, a lot of gender equality.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think they're not the same, but for me, I just feel like equity, everybody has opportunity to the same resources, to the same opportunity set before them.
Okay, you're right. We're going to meet equity and inclusion again somewhere, so we'll dip that. You're absolutely correct. Inclusion, equity, and equality, they're not the same. Just like you said, equity ensures everyone has access to the necessary resources, but equality makes sure that everybody have what they need. So because equity could say that everybody has the same thing, but does everybody need the same thing?
No.
Thank you. So that just answers us. And inclusion is saying creating an environment where everyone feels valued and can participate fully. So we've spent a lot of time. So I'm going to go a little faster. Understanding cultural dimensions, we can always look at our cultural frameworks. We look at what is good, the dimensions frame that helps us to understand those values and that behaviors that shape different cultures. And most of us here have a cultural background, and we know that in some cultures there are certain things you do not do. So if you're from Nigeria, there's always this saying that the Yorubas are known to be more cultural sensitive than any other culture in the whole of Nigeria. And so sometimes they mess, if you have a Yoruba friend and you're an Igbo guy and you go to their house and you just greet their mom anyhow without prostrating, they look at you like, this is not your home. You understand? You should be aware of where you are. And so there's always that culture that when you live in Rome, my people say you roam around. So when you live in Rome, you behave like the Romans. So some cultures are very sensitive to certain things, and why some cultures are sensitive, they are not really, that it doesn't mean that they do not respect or show that, but it's not just something that is done every day. And so we have to understand those cultural dimensions and the frameworks, and also how this affects individuals when they grow up. There's always this saying about culture and orientation. You understand? So can someone tell me, is culture and orientation, are they the same or they are different?
Definitely different.
Can you put me to it?
So I believe culture, like the way of life, their beliefs, their values, and yeah, I know the pure definition of that one, and I know it's very different. But it's about their values.
What about orientation?
Orientation is what, like, in my own words, would be like what they are leaning towards, like what they tend to believe, or what they, the direction that group of people tend to follow.
Okay. So how long have you lived in the US, Joy?
13 years.
Are there things that you've learned here that you never did in Nigeria?
Of course. Or
Have
there are
they
things I did
become
in
your
Nigeria
culture
that I could
now?
not do here.
Have they become your culture now?
They become a way of my life now, yes, because of the
But we could
environment that I
also
live
call
in.
it your culture.
Yes, I could do that. Because of
Yeah.
my beliefs. My beliefs have been changed a little bit being here for that long
Yes.
now.
So orientation affects your culture. And at one point, your orientation assumes your culture.
So question.
Yes, ma'am.
What happens when, or what does it mean when certain cultures are still not acceptable?
That's still the unconscious bias we talk about all the time. Because
go ahead.
No, go ahead. You wanted to add something.
No, just wanted to, is this the Halloween season? It's something that I am still not used to and will probably never get used to. And it's hard for me not to expose my kids to it, but I'm keeping them away with reason, right?
Right.
But I still don't understand it.
So,
Okay.
sorry, I just wanted to quickly chime in here when it comes to that Halloween thing.
Yes.
Halloween is something that, even though we from Africa is not, we are not accepting it. It's not just us. Even people here today, I've met a lot of people here too that don't do Halloween because it's not. So I won't use Halloween as
well, it's accepted in this culture. If we're talking about culture,
that's what I'm saying. I've met a lot of people in this same place, people that have never stepped outside the US that don't do Halloween. They would never, like from their grandfather's generation up to their children, they don't do Halloween.
That's new to me.
But that does not mean
Go ahead, Divine.
that does not mean that the culture is not accepted.
Beautiful.
Okay.
It's accepted generally, but individuals have choice. Just like in Nigeria,
Yes,
Okay.
for
yes,
those that are in
that's the part.
Africa, some people eat dogs, and
Okay.
Mhm.
it's
Okay. I
acceptable
get your
to,
point. Okay.
you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, and the way to come around that. So let me give you an example. My kids, when they were very young, they went to a Catholic school, right? And because there were so many kids that are not actually, the Catholic school is one of those schools that everybody goes to. It doesn't mean that you're a Catholic. Just like we had those schools in the, when we were all younger, there were many Christians who went to Muslims colleges, Ansarudin and the rest of them. So when they do Halloween, they present them with, they wear clothes like angels, priests, and the rest of them, right? Because they did not want to take that culture away from those kids. But what they now did was they now reshaped it for them to still enjoy Halloween, but not in the way the world enjoys it. Are you getting me? So the church I go to now, I go to a Baptist church here because I just moved down here. So I go to non-denominational, but the Baptist church is right by my home. So I used to go there in a while. I find out that today they're doing what they call trunk or treat. You understand? They don't dress like Halloween. They invite all the church members. They put candy in their cars, in the trunk, and they give it out to kids. It does not mean that they accept Halloween as witches or whatever. It's just them imbibing that culture so that they don't, it doesn't mean like they are not part of it. Are you getting me, Chichi?
I get it, but I still don't get it. But yeah, that's fine.
I understand. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. So when my kids went with me, they don't go take a treat, but I can buy candy, and when kids come to my house, I give it to them.
Right.
Do you understand? So I'm not going to say
that means you are enabling what you're not. You're an enabler, even though you don't really fancy that.
I wouldn't call it enabling. I don't know. I just feel. Go ahead. Somebody wanted to say something.
But no, I'm not saying if it's right or wrong or what.
Yeah.
Bad. People's culture beliefs is just well respected. That's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes to the point of where we hear now, identifying personal biases and assumptions. We all have unconscious bias in us. Everybody here.
And that's exactly what we're talking about right now, right? Because right now we most of us fall into this unconscious bias.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We all have it. You know, some people will tell you, I don't see race. They're lying. Everybody sees race. It's just we are accommodating to each other. You get what I'm saying? I used to, when I first came to the country, when I never, you know, when you first came, didn't have a car that you don't have a remote key. Let me just put it like that. And then you get out of your car, or you've gotten out of the car, you're going into a store, and you walk past a couple in a car, and they see you walk past, then they turn the horn just to make sure that their car is locked. That's unconscious bias, right? And so I found myself doing it too. But I was doing it intentionally. Are you getting what I'm saying? I worked retail in my very early days in the States, and I found that there was so much unconscious bias that I was made to follow people, certain people, because of the way they look, right? And after a while, I sat down and I thought about it. And so instead of me being that unconscious bias to a certain group of people, I made sure I followed everybody. But I now found out that it's not actually about who you are or what you are, what you represent. We're not here to talk about those. But you find out that in every culture, there are good and there are bad. And so when we now look, when we self-reflect, you understand, and we look at the background and experiences that helped us to identify all those biases, you find out that there are so many biases that are not even true, or we could call them myths. You get what I'm saying?
No. Uncle Godwin, when you mentioned that in every culture they are good and they are bad, made me a bit confused there because uh, are they really bad?
No, maybe I shouldn't use good or bad.
Yeah, because bad is relative.
Is relative, yes, yes. But we could also say that okay, let's think about it. I'm sure every one of us here is a Nigerian, right? I can say that. And you could talk to, if you go to a certain demographic and say you're a Nigerian, people look at you different, right? And you could also come to a different demographic and say you're a Nigerian. Everybody starts clapping for you. What does that show?
Bias.
Good, yeah. It's what you know at that point in time. Because if you're told that this person is a bad person, but you've not had experience with that person, and because of your group, and because of the limit to what you know, you always see that group as bad because you've not seen anything beyond your group. So when you now shift to another group, you now realize that, oh, maybe these people are not really bad. And that's why I said there are good and bad people in every culture. But bad, like Divine said, could actually be relative as well.
I really like what Teacher Ariyo mentioned. She said in the chat, she said, I still did Halloween ritual with a team last week, and I don't believe in it. Next week's ritual is Duality team. I still don't believe in it, but I work with diverse teams, so I make them all feel inclusive. And for teaching what Chichi mentioned, either we like it or not, some cultures will be to your face. You tell your kids, oh, blah, which I tell my kids too, but the truth of the matter is if you go to McDonald's and you get Happy Meal now, what you're getting is Halloween box kind of thing, you know, how you go, and my child would ask, we don't do Halloween, why are they giving us Halloween gift? But you know, it's what it is.
It is what it is, yeah. Yeah. So let's look at fostering inclusive coaching relationships and let's move faster. So we look at active listening and empathic communication, which is really, really key to what we all of us here do. Because if you do not have active listening, you're going to miss 90% of what's going on. Active listening could be in different forms. There's up to like 5 points. There's the part that you take away all the noise. There's the one that you actually listen as a whole being. And there's the one you're just seeking to understand what they're saying. And so we now look at empathic communication, which entails acknowledging and understanding the client's feelings and experiences. And which is when somebody is saying, oh, I lost my dog, or my dog just died. And because you're not an animal person, you're not a pet owner, you don't empathize with them. Are you getting me? And you're looking at, just like some of us here, dogs is also, I can also put that in another category. There are those of us who grew up, even back home in Nigeria, with dogs, right? And there are those of us who never had animals ever, and we don't understand why people call their dogs children. And so you have a team member who says, oh, I have 2 kids, and you find out it's 2 dogs. What are you going to do? You're going to say, what? Are you getting me? So we have to be empathic and we have to communicate empathically, especially as a coach. You have to put that person in your feelings as well. You're not going to start having dogs tomorrow, but you still have to. So let me tell you, does anybody know this company out of California? They do testing for animals. It's like your quest, whatever quest for blood, you understand? I had an interview 5 months ago, and I had done everything. I have done all the interviews, and the last person was the product owner. And out of the blues, he asked me if I had pets, and I said no. And right after I said no, I kicked myself. But I don't know how to lie and sugarcoat stuff. but the recruiter told me I should have said yes. You get what I'm saying? I don't know if that was why he didn't recommend me. But after I said no to that question, he suddenly told me he had other meetings and he stopped. He will ask me a question while I'm answering, he will jump into another question. And at one point I said, you're not even letting me finish my thoughts. Do you want us to reschedule this? He said, let's just stop here. I need to be in another meeting. And that was the end of an interview. I cannot emphatically say it was because I said I don't have a pet, but something in me tells me that is why. Even though part of my value system said I should have still said I don't have a dog. But another part, I'm saying, oh, maybe I should have said I have a dog. So, Chichi, what would they have done?
I have a dog. In fact, I have snake. It's a good job, man.
Joy, what about you?
Definitely would say I have a pet. That's why it's good to study people. Like you said, just be culturally aware or just be aware.
Right.
Awareness is key.
So
I have a question about that.
yes.
In as much as you're trying to be culturally aware, is also you don't lose yourself in the process.
Beautiful.
Because you also have a culture that those people are supposed to also embrace. So it should be like a 50-50 thing. And if somebody has to agree to work with you just because you have a pet, then I also question their work ethics, or should I even say their way of thinking. And I will, because interview to me is 50-50. And it tells me that I can't even work with that kind of person, because
absolutely.
I don't have to bend my rules or bend how I live my life just because I want to work with you. Because I look at the Indians, they don't joke with their culture. So, and they'll come in, they have a very good work-life balance. They will tell you straight up, I have to drop my children in school so time. They don't compromise on things like that. So I always respect them for that. Whereas where we come from, we're always very fearful. We try to let them push us around. We push ourselves away. We try not to even live like ourselves because we're trying to impress some other people. So if I go for an interview and you ask me that kind of question and I say I don't have a pet and you don't give me a job, I will see that as a red flag, or I will even see it as if I dodged a bullet. That's what I would think.
Thank you.
I see. Okay, all right. I missed the conversation, but I think I see where you're coming from. An interview where you asked a question about an animal,
Yes,
a pet.
He
Whether you
asked
had
me,
one.
Yes.
And he got turned off because you did not.
He just changed everything about the whole interview. Changed.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to lean towards what Annie is saying as well. However, right, if you knew, if I researched this interviewer before and I realized in his bio he mentioned something about being a pet lover and everything.
No,
and I
he didn't.
Okay, then he can't, and then that has nothing to do with the culture of the organization, except that was like an animal company.
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay. Yes, then that might be one of the things they'll be looking out for. Someone
Absolutely.
who loves that.
That's the part
That's
I
their
was saying.
value.
As much as I agree with what Annie said, 100%. And that was what made my decision not to even get flustered when he changed. Because I kind of knew immediately. But on hindsight, I never thought that question could arise. And two, I'm always this one person who will tell the truth first and then regret.
Think later.
Yeah. Because that's how I was taught. You understand? So I might have said, oh, I have a dog. And if he asks me, I know I can mention 3-5 types of dogs. You know? But I feel like one day you're going to know that I don't have a pet.
Right.
And I'll feel stupid at the same time. So, but be it as it may, and it said, I took it that I also dodged a bullet, even though I knocked myself for being stupid as well.
So do you have a pet yet?
I don't.
So because when you know you didn't have a dog, what were you looking for in animal company You should have a snake. You should have everything before you apply that kind of a job. Okay,
A mini zoo, or you say, oh, my kids are my pets.
So we're past an hour. Do we still want to continue?
Depends on you, sir.
I'm okay to continue.
We end at about 26 minutes. So maybe you want to go a little more.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, so part of it is what we talked about, cultural preferences and tailored communication as well. So let's look at essential elements of building trust and rapport and looking at cultural sensitivity, which is what we've been talking about, because cultural sensitivity too, it's a big deal. So Annie said something about Indians. So let me give you a story of a Nigerian guy I worked with very long time ago. And I never knew that someone could bring fufu to work. Are you getting me?
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the lunchroom, and he brought fufu and egusi to the lunchroom, and with stockfish. And he put it in the microwave, and this is a small lunchroom. And the whole place, everybody went out, and they were all talking about it. And I didn't know what they were talking about, but I knew they were all calling each other and saying, oh, don't go to the lunchroom, it smells bad. Right? So I went in there and I saw him swallowing fufu. And I'm thinking in my head, when would you bring fufu to work? Right? And then fast forward, I moved to Phoenix. I'm in the lunchroom in our eating area, which is huge, but still, I see Indians, they don't buy food. You could count like 5, 6 types of food that were eaten there. And everybody was eating it, nobody was complaining. So that's the cultural sensitivity. As we grow, we learned that we can't just be in that bubble, that there are certain things you can do because other cultures will challenge you. And then you start thinking, oh, why was I like this 2 years ago? So we just have to try to be sensitive to other cultures, because there are things that we also do that we don't even know that they embed, and they just look at us like, oh, that's their culture. So let's now address unconscious bias and promoting equity. So let's look at, there's this bias manifestation and bias mitigation, which talks about unconscious bias can affect coaching interactions, such as making assumptions based on a client's background or providing an unequal feedback. Has anybody fallen into this pit before?
Yeah.
Do you want to share?
Yeah, it was more of it wasn't agile coaching, it was more of religious.
Okay.
Right. And this person came from a different religious background that had a different understanding of marriage. Right. So me coaching that person wasn't helpful because I couldn't wrap my head around certain things. And usually before a coaching session, I would kind of ease myself. I'll put myself in a good place where I can actually speak. I didn't even get that time to do that, to just let things go and let things loose. But meeting that person from that background, I already had an image because of my experience.
Right.
So that was a blocker to a successful coaching. So I actually met someone else who could coach him and, sent him over there.
That's because sometimes we coach from what we know. And sometimes too, we look at our own experiences, but it's really bad for us to put ourselves in that, because sometimes it could be different, a whole lot different.
Yeah, I couldn't do him. It wouldn't have been helpful for him for me to coach him. He didn't understand why, but then I just skillfully said, okay, I need a session, and I introduced him to someone who could carry on
helping.
from there. Yeah.
And so we have this bias mitigation, which talks about reflecting on one's cultural background and seeking that feedback, and which can help us recognize and mitigate implicit bias. It's not going to eradicate it, but it's going to help us a little bit to know that because we don't believe in it, doesn't mean, just like we talked about Halloween. If somebody comes to you to talk about Halloween, you're going to coach them based on the culture. You can insert yourself a little bit, but you don't want to put yourself in it, especially if you don't believe in Halloween. So
but how do you remove yourself from that bias?
You have to look at, listen to what they are saying and what their pain points are. You are not in this coaching for you.
Yeah. I think I tried that, but yeah.
I also like what Tutu put in the chat. She talked about doing Halloween ritual with her team. So even though she did not embrace it, she recognized the fact that she has people in her team or her organization that is embracing it. So it should, I think I kind of like that mindset of just accepting other people for the way they are.
Absolutely.
Even though you don't agree with it.
Yes. That's where you extract yourself out and you look at what they brought in what is right in front of you. And active listening, because also that is where active listening comes in, because while the person is talking, if you allow your own thoughts to get into your head, you're not listening. Let us say somebody is talking about doing something that you never thought maybe a married woman, married man could do. And right they started talking, you're thinking in your head, what is this woman talking about? Why would she do this? You've automatically taken yourself out of that conversation. And you're not hearing anything they're saying. And so that is why we say divorce yourself from that and just listen for you to be able to hear to help them. And so there's so many equity tools we could use, utilizing cultural competence, bias assessment, just knowing regularly, you could find them online and see how we can mitigate biases. So let's try and move on. And also advocating for diversity and inclusion, doing those inclusion trainings and mentorship, that can help a lot. So let's look at action plans and how do we help each other in this. So we could reflect on the most resonant takeaways from the session and identify areas that you think could actually help you, especially with implicit bias and how it affects how we relate with others. And those are the part I actually looking at coaching abduction and then continue learning, because we can't just say, oh, we know it all. We can try books and articles, we can go to association networks, and we can do mentorship coaching networks and the rest of them. And all this all come to play. In closing, it's all about building bridges across cultures, because there are cultural bridges, and it emphasizes the importance of building those bridges, because that's the only thing we can do. If we do not build bridges, we can't all be in the same room and all that together. So that's my little take. I wish we have more people who could do some of those exercises that would help us see those cultural biases, that will help us see those implicit bias and all those, removing equity and equality and making sure that we all get what we want. So thank you all for this little time. Any questions? Hi, Tutu.
Good evening, sir. I was just clapping.
I have a question.
How you doing? All the way from
I'm
London.
fine, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, how do you handle a situation where you're working in an organization and they don't even want to embrace this thing? How do you, because my understanding is diversity, equity, and inclusion is all about you being invited to a party, and then inclusion is when you're now asked to dance when you're
asked to dance and
right.
Enjoy the party.
Yes. So what happens when you are in a situation where now you've been employed? Let's say, like for that interview, it's an animal company. You tell them, oh, I have a pet. And then you go in there and you're very, very uncomfortable because you can't really relate, and it's showing in everything. So they are not including you in stuff. How do you succeed in that kind of environment? Or how do you help them? Or should I even say, influence them in a way that they will see things from your own side?
Okay. Thank you very much. Those of you that know me know that was actually my life 6 years ago. Or is this 6 years ago, yeah? Or thereabout. I was at USAA, right? And so I'm sure you people, let me not bring politics. I'm sure you people hear about when they called Kamala DIP whatever hire. I was that hire. I was hired to make sure that there was a black guy in the team. But I didn't know this. Okay? So the culture there was that everything revolved around the manager. It was a safe shop. And all of you also know, and I think that was what actually made me hate safe till date. I'm sorry if I use that word hate, it's really big, maybe despise or something. Because I found that most safe shops, they're just like a gateway drugs to control, command and control. So
It's so mean.
huh?
It's so mean. That's a fancy way of putting everything.
So she was the manager, but she was included in everything, including daily stand-up. Okay? And me coming in young, I did not young, not so new, but I felt, oh, I'm going to come here and make changes. And I did not, what do I say? How a chicken, what I used earlier, when a chicken comes to a new place, standing with one leg, I stood with both legs. Are you getting me?
Mm-hmm.
And my standing with both legs created a huge how do I call it? Heat on my head. And from the day I stepped into that company, I didn't enjoy my 1 year and 6 months. It was from one fire to the other because I thought I could come and make changes. And I thought I could come and make them look at the side I'm coming from, make them understand that I'm here to help, but not to destroy. And so I find out that a week before I resigned, I've discovered that there was another chat group that I wasn't included in. Are you getting me? And the guy told me because he knew I was leaving. If I did not quit, I wouldn't know there was another chat group that I wasn't included in.
So they purposely frustrated your life.
Yes.
They never accepted you from the beginning. They just added, they just brought you in to fill up that diversity quota.
Yes.
Wow.
But because the culture there is everybody kisses her behind, and I did not form into that quote and unquote, I was an outcast immediately. So sometimes you have to, when you've stayed in this field long, you now understand that you don't come in, especially in a hostile environment, you don't breathe fire with fire. My coach will say you have to treat them, kill them with love. There's going to get to an extent that your love wouldn't work, but your love will change a lot of things that you don't know at the end of the day. Because you cannot catch fire with fire. You have to use water with fire. And so that water is your love. You kill them with love. And soon you'll start changing one person to 2 people to 3 people. I'm not going to tell you you're going to have 100%, but you can't start the way I started because that was a wrong approach. I'm not saying you should not start kissing behind. I'm just saying that you kill people with love. Even when you're relating and answering questions, I did not even know that I have had a case at HR while I was working for a year and 6 months. Are you getting me? So let me give you an example. December 18th, this team gave us this simple thing to just max out. You know, I work with USA, they have a bank and they have insurance. So some of the SCRA service members, whatever fund, that which is what allows service members when they deploy to any war, they don't get any kind of charges at home, credit card, even their landlord don't charge them for unpaid bills and everything. Everything stops when they deploy. When they come back, they reinstate everything again. So we're trying to get this thing automated, and then they just send us this 2 pages, just ask us to just work with it. And we ask by email, are there PII in this thing? They said, oh, don't worry about them. We will match them before we ingest it. Are you getting me? So we just took it the way they said, and we sent it to them. They forgot that they said they were going to mask it, right? They just ingested it like that. And this VP, and when I say VP, not the VP we have in Bank of America, I'm talking of a real VP who is like 10 this thing. And she sent a message to us that, why did we do this? So I got back from the meeting and I see them huddling and they're like, this is what's going on. So I said, okay, we're going to find a way to fine tune our response. So I have a meeting right now. Let me go finish that meeting. And when we come back, we'll all sit together, put our head together on what our response is going to be. Was that a bad idea? I went for my meeting only for me to get a call from my cell from the lady calling me that she just understood that I said they should not respond to her acts. My manager told her that. You know, so she calls me, I pick up, she asks me this, and I'm like, no. I said, this is what happened. So I gave her the background of what happened. And she was like, then why did she tell me that you made the decision? I'm like, who am I to make such decision? So I came back and I wanted to ask her, and she calls me right back. And she said, don't worry, I'll deal with it. You don't need to ask her. I already know what's going on. So that was number one. So, and in between, there were so many other things missteps that I did because I never understood what it means to stand on alignment because I thought I could quench everything with fire. It doesn't work that way. You have to kill them with love. You have to start one by one. You just start getting an ally. Get one person, get 2, get 3. And sooner or later,
sorry to cut you in. I'm just trying to understand this love that you're talking about. So this love is forming a relationship, like coming down to their level and get to know them on a personal basis where they're now very comfortable with you that they see you as their friend, basically. So they stop all their antics and they start accepting you into their circle. Okay.
And while you're doing it, you don't want to lose yourself as well. You don't want to lose who you are. But what you're doing is you're getting to know them better than you did. And every time something is raised, don't answer with whatever comes to your head first. You have to sit down and think about it before you give your response. Every time. Because some of us come in and we say, oh, I'm just going to come here and change things. No, you're not going to change things by not showing love. And you're not going to change things by being the most knowledgeable person there. No, you're going to change things by changing one person.
And even with the word change, people don't even want to be changed. They don't even want to be sold. They don't want to be sold change, right? I think they would rather change at their pace, which means that you're meeting them where they are,
right,
and trying to figure out, okay, what's next. So they're kind of leading, but then you are subtly, guiding them,
right?
Because I've worked with coaches, and I work with a team of coaches, and because of maybe a team's experience with one coach, they don't want to work with coaches any longer. Right? They feel like, okay, this person is just comes in and just takes over, just does things. And coaching should not do that. We should be more so, okay, what's the next step? How can I help?
Right.
Right. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally understand that, because when it was the same thing for me too. I came in with fire. The fire is good, right? We are eager to help, but they may not necessarily need that. They don't want that from you.
Tutu has her hand raised.
Oh, Tutu, I'm sorry if I went over you.
No.
You were before. Okay. So I had an experience recently. So I work with a consultancy firm. And what happens is that when you feel like rotating off your team and you go to another team, they will do like interview for you, just maybe one level interview, basically. But they will ask you a manner of questions and all that. So there was this particular area of business I wanted to move to, and colleagues have told me, this one that you want to go and apply there, we are not with you, you know. I was like, okay, so I want to go and try the place. And one of the things, when I got into the interview session with them, within the same organization, they said, we hear you're a coach. We hear you're a coach. We hear that you organize coaching within the our ecosystem like that. I said, yes. So what are you planning to do? And I told them, I said, I'm not going to do anything. What I just need is, if we have people that are willing to sponsor whatever is going on, I mean people that will back up anything that you want to do, that when I get into a team, I don't go in there. I've been born just like Uncle Godwin have mentioned. Let me follow the line of my brother. So I just, I just told them that, when I get into a team, I don't do anything. I have to observe and give a detailed report of what I think I can see that is going on and present to the sponsors, So I was mentioning their name, that all the time that you're going to be involved in the process, you will determine, we'll create a backlog for it, and you will determine which one we do first. So because I've had that experience, but it wasn't as much as yours, so it was just very mild.
Yeah.
So, but I knew that I can't go in. It's like a transformation inside a transformation. So you have to just go in there and make sure you have people that are ready to back up anything that changes I want to make. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm a Black woman. I'm black and I'm a woman at the same time. And that place is male dominated. So all those things are stacked up against me already. Not against me, but we know what it is, as in maybe in the British culture. This is not even America. So I needed to just be careful. And we have male white supremacy, and they are chauvinists. They are, so I needed to just be very, very careful. And they said, why did you decide to come here? I said, because I've heard that that section of business is not agile. And they were quite shocked, because I put it right there into their face that, yes, people were running away. They were telling me not to apply. But I believe that, yes, I'm equal to the task, but I'm not going to do anything without taking the leadership along. And that, I didn't get that particular role because they needed somebody to step in immediately, but they carve out another role. They carve out another role for me within their system. They said they wanted me, and I'm resuming with them in January. That just goes to show that when you're going to meet with all those people, you have to just, like one of my friends will say, kiss ass.
Yeah. Some of you here know Marcelo. Marcelo always have this saying. He talks about that all of us have, when you buy a new TV, it comes with a manual, right? Everybody has a manual. All you got to do is talk to them and understand what their manual is. So just like you're asking when you're coming into as a Scrum Master, the product owner and the team, how can I help you? How can we work together? So once you are able to understand them, understanding them means asking those questions that ordinary people do not ask. Asking, not in condescending manner, asking about their family, asking about their belief system, asking about their likes and dislikes. You get to know what makes them tick, and you get to know what sets up their bomb. So you have to know those things. And so when I say kill them with love that Anne was talking about, it's getting to know them and getting to know where they're coming from when they make certain statements or certain cues. So you got to just understand. Some you may not be able to understand because they're not going to give you they're not going to give you the opportunity to know those things, but you start learning little by little. And like I said, all you need are allies. Once you get 2, 3, you start to understand the system. You could kick ass by actually not kissing ass as well.
Uncle Godwin?
Yes, sir.
Time. Thank you very much. I think it's been so beautiful. And also thank you so much for driving this and also for not canceling it. I think it's been very, very insightful conversation and intelligent people in the house as well. Thank you so much, Uncle Godwin.
Thank you, sir.
Mind if I quickly share the screen for 1 minute?
Yes.
For those of you that were in the session with Ashrani, we're going to be having, I hope I'm sharing the right thing. I don't know. We're going to be having the value stream mapping. And if you can see my screen, the value of this is about $7.99, and it's just for a $10 now from Agile Disciples. And also, we have some people that actually won the prize for after our conversation the last time on value stream mapping. The last time it was just high-level conversation on it, but this time around it's going to be like a masterclass where you can really, really apply it, and actually will be holding us by the hand. But this time around, we got 2 people, Vanessa Nelson, Esther Dairo, and Sonia, that won that from Agile Disciples, and we'll be giving we'll be giving them the tickets to get into the class. In case you want to register for that, for the value stream mapping masterclass, you can reach out to any of the coaches. The link is actually on it's on Agile Disciples LinkedIn page, so you can register there, and it's taking place Saturday, November 2nd. Saturday, November 2nd. The seats are getting filled fast, so it's best for you to just register fast. After that, we also have the design thinking as well, but you don't want to miss any of the 2. I don't think there's any other thing. Uncle Godwin, do you want to say something? Any other thing? Anything from anyone? Okay, if you just share the link in the chat for you to register.
If you try to register now, it actually has more discount that could actually help more. That bring it from the $20 to something better than that.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, Godwin. In absence of nothing else, Godwin, is it okay? We'll call it a day then.
Yes, sir. Very good. Thank you all for listening to my rambling.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Godwin. Bye.
Yeah, bye.